Hola community, welcome to Blender Today Live. This gathering, this bi-weekly gathering where we see what's new in Blender in the community and else. This week there is a few announcements I would like to make. Some of them are things that we already shared online, such as the annual report. If you want to know where all your hard-earned money goes in your donation money goes into Blender, this article, this shows not only that, but also which activities we did last year, which workshops took place here at the studio, at the institute, what the studio had been making, and so much more. So it's a PDF. It's something that usually all companies do. You can see all kinds of numbers there. There is one section that is called Blender by the numbers, which is missing from this one in particular. It's the section where you can see how many downloads Blender had and how many yeah, all those fun numbers, the statistics. Unfortunately, that takes a long time to do. It's not as just going to some place and getting a number, unfortunately. So that hasn't been done in time. Why was this then released without it? It's because there is a presentation at the Blender conference where they are going to talk about this. Like Ton and Francesco are going to have a feedback session about this. So if you want to know where all your money goes, you can even see like the CEO's income, like salary in there. Like it's usually in many companies, and you'll see that it's quite a lot less than what you get in other big, even open source communities. But it's still pretty nice to see that things go into well spent projects, open source projects. There is one article by well, one tweet in particular and an article by 80 Level that says that Blender has been operating at a loss in 2024, which I know is a bit on the clickbaity side, although they always deliver. I love their articles. They're always really good, and actually they're very factual. And if you enter, you see that yeah, it's been operating at a loss, but the campaign from last year has been moved to it hasn't been added to the financial year of last year, but actually this year. So that's why it looks like it's been operating at a loss much more than it is. And I mean, I'm not saying that Blender is doing super well, but at least it's not that. I mean, it's bad. It could be better, especially because we rely a lot on big companies, but it's not as bad as in this article. Although I know it's with a good intention, and I know it's only good that people think that and that they want to support more and they need to support more, because it is true. We would be having a lot more developers on the payroll if we could, but it's not too bad. It's doing okay. It's doing okay. Watch the presentation by Ton tomorrow in the keynote in the Blender conference. Okay, moving before talking about the conference, the video by OK Go, what impulse purchase, has been released a few days, actually the day after the last episode of Blender Today, but you maybe have missed it. This was completely done in Blender, and it's a band that is pretty big, pretty popular. OK Go, and they use I mean, this is for some, it's not like they made it. It's two artists and Will Anderson on the backend magic side, and the design by Lucas Sanotto. But the overall project was actually produced by Blender Studio. It was paid by Blender Studio. So the source files for this are in Blender Studio, and yeah, it's awesome because it's one of those projects that happens that is produced by the studio but happened outside. So with your donations, your subscription to the Blender Studio, you make it happen. You get these files, and yeah, you see, you make something cool. So try it out. There is, of course, the file is under a subscription. However, there are other files. There is a here OSC live demo, which is free. You don't need a subscription. You can just get it. You just need to get Blender and download these files. These are for free for everyone, so you don't need to have a subscription. It's only for the final file from the film. What else? Oh, Dog Walk. The team from the Blender Studio has released a new training. This is under a paywall, so I'm not gonna ask you to go check it out if you don't have a subscription. However, speaking of things that are free, it's the software part of the software that was used for Dog Walk, which is Godot 4.5. It's out. Yeah, this is nothing related to Blender, although mainly, more or less. But 4.5 of Godot was released, and for a very brief moment in time, Blender and Godot versions are aligned, because the next Blender version is 5.0, but it's only in November. So for a little moment, we are aligned. You know what else is happening this week? And the big thing, tomorrow, Blender conference for the very, very first time in September. Yes. Forever, the conference has taken place in October, because it's the month of when Blender was released to the public back in 2002, October 12th. Then it was moved to the end of October because it aligns better with the daylight saving and stuff. But now it has been moved to September, to now, like tomorrow, actually. So if you want to check the presentations, go to schedule and you can sort them. You can see them here with a nice picture, or there. If you zoom out, you see the actual pictures of the presentations. It's gonna be a fantastic conference yet again. So make sure you check them out. There is a playlist in this channel where you're watching this right now that is called Blender Conference 2025. It doesn't have any videos yet because the conference hasn't started, but that's a playlist where all the videos are gonna go as soon as they are released. So make sure you check that out, and I go full screen so you pay attention. Those videos, we are not, we have disabled notifications for those videos. Why? Because some conferences ago, we realized that people don't like so many notifications. So yeah, we were publishing like a 50 or 80 videos. People don't want that. So we disable notifications. So it means that you're not gonna know about it unless you actually go to the conference. So I will try to remember to make a blog post or like a community post so you actually see this. But yeah, there's an empty playlist. I can share it with you so you bookmark it to check it out as they come out. But yeah, they're like 100 presentations. You don't want 100 notifications, right? That's it. That's everything I have to share about it today. Let's see what's new in Blender today. All right, let's start. How is the chat going, by the way? Will I call for donation like last year be done again in the future? Yes, there will be. So it's a campaign that we try to do every year. It's similar to what Wikipedia does. You get this message whenever you go to Wikipedia. You get a message saying, well, it's nowhere here. Actually, it's almost ended, or maybe it ended. Or maybe because I'm logged in. But anyway, there, Wikipedia has this message every year, even though they seem to be doing quite well financially. They keep pushing for it, and it works because that's what keeps them afloat. We'll try to do the same with Blender every year, to have this campaign at the end of the year to try and remind people to donate if they wish to. Okay. I really wish the Blender community would mark the release of 5.0 by making the donation numbers explode. Wow, that would be awesome. Thomas Marcos, thank you for all your tweets on sharing Blender updates. They really help a lot to gain visibility to things that are usually just like in the air, or we just expect people to find out about somehow, or once the release is out. But it's good to get the hype of a new release as soon as it happens. So that's why we do these live streams. Let's start with the animation section. There is a couple of things I want to mention, fixes and so on. Actually, this week, yes, today there was a workshop. Many of the developers, there was an animation workshop, layered animation workshop here at the office, at the HQ. Since many developers are here for the Blender conference, it made only sense. So two big things happened. One of them is that old code from Blender before Blender 2.5, some of you maybe were not even born yet. Of course you were. But yeah, Blender 2.5. So I'm talking 2009, 2010-ish. there was the old animation system. There was still code for the old animation system. So why am I sharing this with you? Because if you load an old file from 2.4, 2.3, 2.5, from 20 years ago in Blender 5, you're gonna get a message and the animation is not gonna be there. Does it mean that Blender broke compatibility with all those files? No, because Blender 4.5, and from now on, remember, the version, the LTS version prior to the big number, so before 5.0, that is 4.5 LTS. Before 4.0, that is 3.6 LTS, and so on and so forth. So that's how you know which version are gonna be the ones that you can use as a bridge. So you open the old file in 4.5, save, and then open it in 5.0. That will do like all the translation of your data. Not only for animation, for pretty much everything else, like mesh stuff, attributes, pretty much everything that needs to be converted over. That's the way. Okay. Let's see. Oh, this is so nice. I think I mentioned this last week, no? The frames per second. So basically, the grid. Let's open Blender here. It's much better. So I have a fresh Blender here, very fresh, so fresh that I don't have settings yet. So let's add some settings by making this UI slightly bigger. Okay, so the timeline. Not the timeline editor, but every timeline in Blender has these lines, right? Like the grid. These numbers used to be at random. It was like 0, 10, 0, 5, 10. That had no real meaning other than just round numbers. Except now they go by frames per second. So you notice that there is a line here at 0, at 6, 12, 24, like the thick line is around, or darker line is around 24, 48, and that's because my frames per second happen to be 24. If I set that to something horrible like 30, then it would go 0, 15, 30, but also it would go 0, 5, 10, 15, 30. The same with 60, and so on and so forth. So you can keep an eye on the, you can see at a glance, okay, these are my seconds, and these are my, the numbers I should be paying attention to. So here you go, 0, 6, 12, 18. So super nice. And it just works. I think it has a limit though. I think 240 frames per second may have some issue there, but that's it. It's not too bad. I think if you're working with 240 frames per second, you have other things to worry about. Cool. What about 29.97 frames per second? Okay, I don't know if that's gonna work. Probably yes, because it is. Yes. I mean, it rounds to 30, and if I enable subframes, does it 29 point... Why are these colors so ugly? I think I need to reset the theme, no? Why do I don't... Blender doesn't highlight these. Interesting. So the frames per second indicator is here, but the stem somehow goes to the subframe until I zoom out. Ah, no, there is a line. Oh, I've never noticed that. You get to see it. There is like a dashed line between the current frame. That's not great. Or the line at least should, the dash line should have the color of the frame. Anyway, first time I see that. Interesting. Anyway, that's how you see that. Yeah, you shouldn't animate 29.79 to 97. It's the digital era. Go 24. But I know, no, sometimes it's not up to us. Next, let's talk about out of space or outer space. The title of this commit doesn't say much. It says port changes from upstream. It's not great. However, what is great is the feature that came from upstream, which is more accurate seeking for animated time stretching. That is, Autospace is the library used for audio processing in Blender. So I guess this means that when you're seeking, like you're moving around the timeline, the scrubbing in the timeline, you will get more accurate animated time stretch. Neat. Let's move on forward. Authors, build environments, CMake, clean up, bunch of cleanups until we arrive to color management. So last time we talked, there was all this rage and this talk about ACES 2.0, right? The big change. Well, that was only one part of it, because the other big part was to actually see what workspace you're in and see the actual colors in it, like the working color space, not the workspace, working color space. Yeah, so Blender now supports ACES CG and Rec 2020 linear spaces for preview and for saving it in the blend files. So also when you share a blend file with other software, they should be able to read the proper color management. They should read that it says software Blender, so they know. It's awesome. So if you go here, you will find them in the render settings, color management, all the way down. Here you will see that there is, as there used to be, like the display, service, view, transform, but also the working space up here. And this working space lets you see for the file and for the sequencer separately. So you can say, okay, the file, I want to see it in ACES. Then you get this ugly message that says set blend file working color space. To match the renders with the previous working space as closely as possible, colors in all materials, lights, and geometry must be converted. It's a big warning. So, and this is destructive data. So I think this should have some kind of icon on the side and some warning, because now it shows like yeah. And then you get the working space option again, so you can change it after the fact. But then, yeah, this option should be here. And yeah, working color space. If you don't convert the color space, you can apply, but without converting. That's nice. Anyways, you're not converting everything to ACES or Linear Rec 2020, and the same for the sequencer. And this, we're gonna see later that this will be used by the sequencer when you save or export video. This, so super nice. What else? Oh, by the way, if you want to learn more about this, there is Christopher 3D, this one, that made a very nice video. Two videos actually, one on when ACES 2.0 was introduced, and then this video, which is uploaded twice, and I believe the second one has the proper the proper color. So I don't think you will notice here. This video is encoded with a wide gamma color space. I don't have a P3 capable monitor here, or you're probably not watching it in one. On this video the live stream, I don't think it's encoded in the right way for you to actually take advantage of this, but you should check out this video and the comments, because there are also some notes in the comments where you can learn more about this. Super neat. What else? Then, oh yes, the ID that Blender now reads. Blender now saves a bunch of data that helps you making these renders work with other software. Super nice. Interop ID for OpenEXR. This is a new feature in the upcoming OpenEXR 3.4.0, and it's a string attribute that we can already support. Neat. And Blender, there is a new variable, environment variable too, that when you can specify Blender OpenColor IO. Same thing. It's in Blender specific in case you want to use a different one than other applications. Okay, next. By the way, you can find all this in the thread that I'm going to make right now. course. Let's copy this. I'm gonna make a new. There you go. This and this, and let's make an embedded here, YouTube ID, so you can see it and leave any questions. If we have time, we can answer them later. But here you can see all the changes that I'm going to be talking about today. I think around 80 changes will be. All right, let's go back to, this is where I was, color management. Here you can see all the changes to color management. I'm not going to talk about all of them, but I'm going to talk about the compositor because there's two noteworthy changes this week. One, turn menu options to sockets for pixel nodes. So all pixel nodes that have menus, they now have options. So here you find color balance, channel key, color spill, distance, alpha convert, and set alpha have their options exposes as sockets. Both menu, colors, values, even an expanded enum. Eek. This shouldn't be. Yeah, this should be non-expanded actually. It looks horrible. Channel key. We never use expanded enums unless there is room for it, but here there's clearly no room in RGB. Okay, something to have a look later. The double edge mask node menus have now converted into inputs in the same fashion as the previous commit. These are now entries, inputs that you can adjust. Then the core section of Blender has one particular change that is a optimization. So this is related to dupli objects, and so you're still using the old dupli objects in Blender instead of using geometry nodes. There are some updates coming. This one is a performance improvement in the viewport in some instancing scenes that went around 4 to 6% faster. So I wouldn't say no to that. You need to color correct your webcam. What do you mean? It is color corrected. It's just that there is just too much light in here. I need a proper studio lighting setup or full blackout lights. But you know, I'll let nature do its thing. But the color's not too bad, is it? I am yellow in real life. Okay, that was a performance improvement for core. Let's see what else. There's performance and new features in curves. Let's see the curves. Okay, first, performance. NURBS custom nodes offset cache calculation. Build the size for each curve in parallel, then accumulate the sizes to offsets. Okay, not bad. Parallelization. And then there's another update by Matthias Fredriksson, which replaces the current function calculation for NURBS. And this gains around a net 7 or more performance improvement, 7% or more, with the average result being as fast or faster than the fastest execution from previous implementation. Nice. NURBS. Good to see. Here are some numbers. Neat. Thank you, Matthias Fredriksson. Casey instead brings us a new tool which we are used to. It's the pen tool. It's the one that is also available for grease pencil and for the regular curve objects. It's now in the curves object. So this makes the new curves new. It's not really new anymore. It's been so long. More up to date, more in line with the rest. So thank you, Casey. Let's talk about cycles. We have a few changes here, optimizations and some removals. Let's see. Sorry for flashing this white light here. I don't know how to get rid of it. I wish Chrome will know that I don't want a white flash, or it would at least flash to black instead. Anyways. Maybe I need to change browsers. Okay, anyways, cycles. Flip image vertically before passing. Okay, this, it seems that optics is optimized to the denoiser, the optics denoiser is optimized to perform best when the images have the origin at the top left corner. However, Blender by default the renders with the origin to the bottom left corner. So here Patrick seems to have found out that if before the render the image will be flipped, then post-process, and then flip back, you will get better quality in your denoiser images. Isn't that nice? That's a great find. Yeah, there is a comparison here, render at 32 samples and the noise with and without this change. Can I see this? Without, with. I mean, it is better for sure. You can see less noise at the same amount of samples. Wow, yes. Here in particular. Let's see. With, without, oh no, without, with, without, let's see around here, with. Yeah, here in the fabric you can also tell. It's not too bad. It's a great finding. This is, wow, yeah, this really makes a difference for small frequency noise. Here, the blue part, it's so... sorry, I don't know if you get to see it with the compression of the video and everything, but it really makes a huge difference when small frequency noise. Nice, great finding. Neat. Thank you, Patrick. The more you know, who would have thought? Also, why Blues Blender does it the other direction? Hard to know. Okay, next. This is for one API for our Intel fans out there. There is a performance improvement of about 7% when rendering Walt Disney Animation Studio Cloud is one of those demo scenes on an Intel Arc B580. This change alone by Xavier Halade gives a 7% speed up. Not bad, nice. Then HIP SDK has been updated on Linux to 6.4.3, and Alembic procedural, I think this is a experimental change that has been there for a while, but I don't think it's used anymore as far as they say, and this should be replaced anyway with USD Hydra procedural, which some of the work is already there. So this has been removed. It was experimental too, and apparently nobody used it, so you're probably not gonna notice. And it makes Blender 3,800 lines lighter, which is nice. Let's see. Remove the use tiling option. Another option that it's gone in Blender is the use tiling option. So it will now always enforce tiling of some size, so basically automatic, up to 8K tile size. That's a big tile. Yeah, so apparently trying to do it yourself is always slower than doing it, than letting automatic tile size be decided for you. Let's see. Let's see. How's the chat going? Here, someone screaming, bro, I think Blender should have its own splash screen at loading. No, Blender shouldn't take time to load. Blender should load instantaneously. No. No loading. Although sometimes you can't hope to, you can't just hope to be instant, right? So at least it should show the Blender logo, because right now it shows like just like a gray or whatever your theme is setting is, like a big flat color, and it should show at least the Blender logo. No progress bar though, it should be instant. When loading a blend file though, that could be useful though. And there is a patch by Harley but it wasn't decided on because the problem with progress bars is that when do you show them? Sometimes the files load instantly, right? So would you flash an image instantly just so you, because right now the UI is frozen before the loading, so it kind of waits for you to waits for the UI to be responsive, and it doesn't, you don't notice most of the time. If it would show some loading screen it would flash in some way if the file is fast to load. If the file is slow to load, it would really help. So where do you draw the line? Do you show the loading scene on loading image only if it takes more than 2 seconds, 3 seconds? But if the file takes 4 seconds, then you will, anyway, you know what I mean. It's not easy to calculate. Okay, somebody says the same, maybe after 5 seconds. Yeah, but then if your file takes 6 seconds or 5.5, then you will see for a split second. Yeah, it's hard to guess, right? You could guess maybe if the file is heavy, like you can have a file that is like 1 megabyte and it takes forever to load because of shaders or whatever, right? But maybe it would be a bigger guess if the file is more than 100 megs. It's like, okay, maybe there's a bunch of geometry or there's a, I don't know, everything will always be a guess. Next, let's see Eevee. That would also be a guess. Eevee has 2 changes that are related to performance. Let's see. Always good to see. Well, this is actually a big one. This is a split Eevee shader shared into multiple files. So this was a file that was huge and it was it made it so it was making compile the shaders, like the compile time when you until you see something that's happening in the scene, very time consuming basically, because it was a big file. Now this has been split into multiple files, which means that it can be loaded on demand. And apparently this speeds up some cases where you have a bunch of shaders to compile. So basically it's more granular the way it gets loaded, which means in some setups this went from 257 milliseconds to 207 milliseconds. So that's 50 milliseconds less. And in this other case, 28 milliseconds less. In some scenes, like the barbershop, there is no difference, especially with Vulkan, there's no difference at all. But I think in big scenes this will help. And from what I heard, there is more work coming. Many people, we get many users asking, so where is Blender NPR? Where is, Eevee NPR or Blender, the thing that was promised? There are not that many developers. And the developers that are there, they are working on things like this, making Eevee faster, making it fast to load. There were many complaints when Eevee went from Eevee Legacy to Eevee Next that yes, you can do all these things now with Eevee Next, but it's slow to load. Okay, so they're addressing that. So if you ask for Blender render NPR, it's the same people. So you have to choose either you make Eevee faster or you go NPR. You can do both things, but then yeah, you can have slow NPR or faster Eevee. I think it's better to go for a faster system at the moment, to start with something fast and then add the features. Or, you know what else you can do? You can also get more developers, and for that you need to donate. Like someone started a silver membership 2 minutes ago, or someone donated $5 12 minutes ago, or $25 17 minutes ago. So 7,424 individuals, which is, wow, that's less, right? If we go, well, how many were there in the press release that we did for Blender 4.5? I wrote this, and at the end I always mention how many individuals there are. So actually there are less people donating to Blender today than they were when in July, when Blender 4.5 came out, and the same amount of organizations. So actually, maybe maybe 80 level has is more correct than I thought. We have less people donating than a couple months ago. That's a bit sad. I thought we were doing things right. Look at that. So many people are working on making Blender faster, Eevee faster. Another change here that gives some speed up, small but some. Then we have people like Aras who do both donate and make Blender faster. In this case, Aras made FFmpeg rendering go from rendering a 4K playback 4K video downsampled at 1080p from 9 milliseconds to 7.83 milliseconds. Not bad. The same for two Blender 1080p videos playback from 5.79 to 4.94. So slightly faster, but every bit helps. Same with donations, every bit helps. Let's see. Bunch of fixes. Look at those fixes. If every bug report you will have to donate $1 to perform a bug report, then we're probably gonna have less bug reports. So it's not a good idea. Let's see. But maybe in the same way that you get a message when you donate, when you download Blender, maybe it could be a message for when you get your bug report fixed. Maybe that can be something that the bot does. No, like every bug fix. So you get a bug, you do a bug report, and then at the end the bot can say, hey, save stat as resolved, and then it's like, by the way, did you like the bug fix? Well, you can maybe that would be no, we shouldn't mix development and donations. Okay, next, let's see what else is new. GPU stuff, bunch of work done in GPU. That's why there were not that many Eevee features as well, because you see the same people working on all something in the same thing. Let's talk about geometry nodes. Let's see. 3 changes worth mentioning. Well, I mean, there are 4, but 3 of them. 1, there's a new node in town called string to value by David Sebald. An existing node converts a value float to string. This node is intended as a conversion in the other direction to get from string to a value node. So is there any picture of the node? Nowhere to be seen, but I guess it looks similar. Let's see how it looks. Just curious. It's probably very very common. So let's see, string to value. There you go. It takes a string and you convert to a float or an integer. Neat. Nice. You get a value and then length value. Neat. Nice. Okay. Next, we have 2 more options. One, an optimization. Ooh, nice. This is by Jack Luke. It's an optimization of group input logging, which makes playback performance from 23 frames per second to 39 frames per second. This is a slow playback speed compared to Blender 4.4. So this is something that used to be fast in 4.4. It became slower in 4.5 and now faster in 5.0. But maybe this can be ported over to the LTS. I'm not sure. That's not mentioned here, but it would be nice to have this. If the next bottleneck, it's node editor drawing. Interesting. Look, if I change the geometry nodes editor to another editor type, the speed up is 36 main to 110 FPS. Oh, that's good to know. With this patch, if you have playback on your scene and it's slow, one way to make it faster is just switch to another, like info. This is completely fast, this to calculate. And even then without there you go. So now this should be the fastest. Interesting. Or just go full screen. Control space. I always forget the shortcut. Control space. Let's see. Ooh, this is so cool. Look, An improvement by W Cloud. This, I mean, just with this, you know the good things coming. Okay, so when you look at a picture like this, you see a picture like this. You see, it's like, okay, I mean, these are attributes in the viewport for each point, I guess, right? Is X, Y, Z, X, Y, it's not too bad. However, when you see the improvement that W Cloud did, now you see it. Okay, this is more readable. X, Y, Z. They are not aligned. Would be nice if they were left aligned or right aligned, but I guess that's also hard to do because they need to be centered at a point, but then some kind of yeah, it's hard to do. But this is amazing. This is way more readable. The same case goes to, this is how it used to be, right? You get the ID on each one of the points, but also this is how it looks. So you get each point, I don't know if you noticed before, but you have these numbers overlapped. It's not very clear here, but 0 has another number below. And this actually tells you this is the ID number 1, 0, 1, 2. And the same for everything. So nice. It's night and day. And the last one is also awesome. Look. This is, well, this is completely unreadable. This is not even, I'm not even gonna say that it was okay. But this, nice. RGBA, each one of the values for each one of the vertices on each side, completely readable. Amazing. Thank you, W Cloud. And there's a video too. I guess in motion is even more neat for each face, for the edge, for the vertex. So cool. Wow. Okay, at some point it becomes unreadable and then maybe something could be done there, but this is already a huge step forward. So thank you, W Cloud. It's amazing. All the hearts and the parties and the rocket going to the sky. Next, 2 changes in Grease Pencil. One is use handles for extrude, subdivide, and duplicate. This allows selected handles to work for the extrude, subdivide, and duplicate operators. It's something that was missing, but now it's present for Grease Pencil. Another improvement is support Bezier and Catmull ROM for the interpolation tool in Grease Pencil. Also super nice. And add support that, yeah, used to be there. So there are 4 bug reports that are resolved thanks to this. Neat. Awesome. Thank you, Casey. Let's see what else. A lot of internationalization thanks to Bastien, Damien. Next, more performance. This is in the image buffer. So it's something that is used all over Blender for visualization, for opening your render, for anything. And this used to be very single-threaded apparently. Not anymore. They are used in various places, but testing their usage in the video sequence editor modifier branch, coming up, applying a default do nothing compositor modifier on a 1080p went from 51 milliseconds to 12 milliseconds. So apparently there was a modifier that did nothing, and it was already taking up space, a lot of time, but now it takes less time. That's awesome. So yeah, basically they were allocating buffers when there was no needed, doing pre-multiply, open color IO, pre-multiply, and pre-multiply. Too many steps. So super nice. Thank you, Aras, for keeping Blender light and fast. Next. Images, also related to images. OpenEXR, write software metadata with Blender name and version. Nice. So this, we are spreading the word. If you share an OpenEXR render, it will have now some metadata that says the software has been Blender and the version number of Blender. So Blender 5.0. Nice. So other people are aware what you're using. And other software can act accordingly if they need to do some tooling for that, or even Blender itself. Okay, next, more optimizations in Mesh. optimize sparse face to vertex attribute interpolation. There is no numbers on how much faster this is, but judging by the amount of likes and rockets and party emojis and yes, overall agreement that this is a good thing, then I'm sharing it here. And apparently it's a bottleneck for another constraint, attribute transform. Oh, nice. We haven't had a new constraint in ages. So good to see. Face to vertex attribute interpolation is optimized. All right, let's talk about modeling. We don't see many modeling features ever, but Ethan Traurig has been working hard in not in writing a description for this pull request for sure, but writing the actual code. There you go. Only this? Nice. So AutoMerge now supports symmetrize. Okay, so that's all the code that was needed for this feature? It's great. The symmetrize operator can leave overlapping vertices. The user expects the vertices to be merged when AutoMerge vertices is on. So this is part of another one, which is expands the use cases of AutoMerge vertices. Not there yet, but it's part of that one. So it's good to see it there. Awesome. Neat. And also good to see Ethan and another developer from the community interested in making Blender's modeling tools better. Let's see what else. And modifiers. Hans has made it so the modifiers use implicit sharing for some bind data. In other words, optimizations. This is for memory usage. So in one relatively extreme test file with the surface deform modifier, binding data, you know, it takes a lot of space. If you share a file that has bind data from armatures, modifiers, that data goes into the blend file, and that can make it very big. So I remember when we were sharing some files, we were just unbind the data, save the file, share it, and then ask the person on the other side to say like, okay, remember to open the file, bind.data. Well, binding data in this case is a lot less of an issue because it went from using 14 gigabytes to 4 gigs in this extreme case. So I guess it's gonna be much more reasonable in regular, not such extreme cases. So super nice and welcome change thanks to Hans. Let's talk about nodes. Bunch of changes. And actually pretty much all of the changes are good to share. And this, please let me get your attention, because as of this week, actually on the weekend, it was committed on a Saturday or Sunday. Remember the known, and I don't know if it was loved, the use nodes. Use nodes is it was a checkbox that would be in the header of the node editor for shader, for compositing, for everywhere else. This is legacy because this is something that was added back in the days. You could have materials with and without nodes. The option to have without nodes was because nodes were slow back in the days. It was Blender internal without nodes was a lot faster to compute. And that has been carrying over, even though now we have GPU optimizations, EV, real-time, and everything. But we still have this setting that was called used nodes. So confusing. Not anymore. It's gone. The use nodes option in the shader editor for object materials has been removed. That's it. For line style, no changes are planned, but you wouldn't see this anymore anywhere else. I think the world has been removed for the world. For the world, that sounds very let's see. So I don't want to see object, I want to see the world. Yes, it's gone also for the world. Nice. Object world only visible for line style, I guess, for like freestyle stuff, but it's no longer there. And I don't know if you noticed too, but the compositor also doesn't have, actually you can have a compositor without nodes, and there is no more use nodes, and the same for geometry nodes. That it's just, yeah, didn't make also any sense there. And it wouldn't be a bad thing to, it wouldn't be good to carry over such a bad practice of use nodes. Oh my God, I know, very dramatic, but you know, it's a big thing. If you've been using Blender for long enough, you know that this is so silly to have that option. It made sense back in the days, but it's been 20 something years. Okay, next. The nodes have real custom properties. I mean, real as real as they get. But yeah, same way you can have custom properties for objects, materials, mesh, data. Now nodes have custom properties in the same place that you would expect it in the node tab, custom properties panel, same as they used to be. Node Wrangler, 2 changes in Node Wrangler, which I'm super happy to see because people often forget that the Node Wrangler is a built-in add-on and they can actually add things or fix things there instead of making new add-ons that maybe do a similar thing. The Node Wrangler now shows socket icons for the Lazy Connect menu. So what used to look like this, where you will connect Boolean to a Boolean, material, and so on, now looks like this. Yay, colors. It's awesome. So thank you, Quackaruni, for improving this. And Quackaruni has another patch which is in the works, which I really hope it will make it to 5.0. Here's and I think it will. It has to do with nodes, with a feature from Node Wrangler that was removed and will be part of Blender built in, not Node Wrangler. Something about swapping. I'm not gonna, I mean, come on, swap nodes. I'm not gonna spoil something about swapping. Anyway, swap nodes, Shift S. If you know what I'm talking about, Shift S at the moment. If you have the Node Wrangler, it's I don't know. I don't even want to show it because it is embarrassing that Blender has this message for so many years. This message. This operator is removed. A native implementation is expected in the future. I hate that. Shouldn't be promising things in the UI. Either you have it or not. Support for string sockets has been added to the Node Wrangler merge operator. So now when you join strings, or like join, merge, it will support string socket. The same way that you select 2 geometry nodes and drag and you get a join geometry, now you will get a join strings node for the string sockets. Super nice. Okay, let's see what else has been added. The menu switch node now has a selection output for each item in the menu switch node. Okay, it's easier to see it. So this is how it used to be. No, this is how it is at the moment, but with a very simple example. I missed it. Okay, here. Menu switch. Look at this node. Do you notice anything? Yes. Each entry, each input has an output for the selection. So it's a Boolean, as you can see by the color. So I think this is the first time we have, like, that is not a geometry, that we have inline sockets in the in and the out. It makes so much sense. It looks a little bit funny with balls on both sides, but it is so useful. Next. Basically, you get a Boolean if the number matches. So good to see. So it's basically, instead of having this, that you, if the menu output equals 2, then, or equals 1, then you get, instead of doing this logic, you just get the logic out of this one. So cool. Let's see what else. Add new tools for mute links and add reroute by Leon Shitek. Let's see. Oh, by the way, the other change to the string sockets merge operator was by Ido Shahar. Sorry, I didn't mention. I made a mention your name. Cool. So we have 2 new tools, and they have beautiful icons and beautiful PR. like you would expect from Leon. This is before adding the icons. But yeah, the tool works as expected, which is awesome for tablet support. So good. I mean, tablet and anything that doesn't have like a keyboard. So nice. What else? Deactivate viewer if shortcut exists. This change from Habib is actually inspired by a right-click select request. Somebody requested that you can use 1, 2, 3 to preview a viewer, but you cannot toggle it again to disable them, to turn it off. So now you can. Actually, 6 people requested this feature and has been implemented, actually, right? Yes, it is. So for the Compositor, it's not the case because you cannot have a non-active viewer, but it is done. So I'm going to mark it as done, I think. Yep. Super nice. There you go. Implemented in, I'm even going to share here. Marking as done. Have to share the good news. Thank you, Habib, for checking out Blender right-click select and for implementing a feature from there. Super nice. Let's see what else. More move values to combine XYZ from link drag search. Oh, nice. Yes. So some time ago, when it was implemented 4 months ago, it was implemented that when you drag a, for example, you drag a string node that has a value, you drag it out and you get a string, and then if the string from that input would move into this output, so it moves to the field there. Same concept has been implemented for XYZ. Super nice, super welcome. This changes this quality of life improvement, and it saves you seconds here and there. What else? Missing tooltips. Quackaroni not only makes features but also explains them. And they added descriptions to the align Euler to vector, rotation to vector, angles to rotation, Boolean math. Wow. Okay, I'm not gonna go through all of them, but basically you get the idea. Thank you, Quackaroni, for some geometry and a few shader nodes as well. So nice. Who are you, Quackaroni? It's good to see you. Helping out so much. Next, let's switch to OBJ. Import nerves as curves directly. Extends the OBJ importer for importing nerves directly as curves instead of using the legacy code. So thank you, Matthias Fredriksson. This change only affects the GeoNode importer and will not be a change in the behavior for users. So nothing changes. Let's see. Opening XR Paint. We have a new feature in Paint. There is now an option for pressure mapping curves for size, jitter, and strength. So you can actually specify how strong these will be. So there you go. So instead of having a linear curve for like the default curve for pressure, so you can now specify the curve, the curvature of the intensity of that effect for jitter, size, and strength. Super nice. Awesome. So thank you, Sean. Oh, no, actually, no, Toby Young. Sorry, it was committed by, yeah, Toby Young. It was, well, I mean, the developer that we reviewed it was Sean, but thank you, Toby. I don't think I've seen patches from you before. Although you have some action 2 years ago, and it's nice to see. Thank you. Yes, bit by bit, the community are taking over, making Blender painting better for everyone. Let's see, what else? Preferences, Python API, refactors. Let's talk about render. 2 things to mention. One, which is actually Python API, but this adds 2 optional arguments to the render.render operators, which allows you to set a custom frame range for animation render. So I think this has to do more with like the backend, or like if you use Python to render stuff. But also we have a new feature and the renaming of an old feature related to sky. The sky texture, Nishita, has been renamed to single scattering. Why? Well, because now there is a multiple scattering sky texture. So look at this, it's just an entire new sky texture. Neat. So this is how Nishita used to look, or single scattering. And this is how the new one looks. A lot less gloomy, I would say. Also, I like how the sunset is a lot nicer. So Nishita is... it's like, I don't know if I want to be there. It looks like the sky is not very clean. And then multiple scattering. Nice. So cool. So this is a major improvement. Although I'm gonna say I'm gonna miss Nishita. I like saying Nishita here, add Nishita, remove Nishita. Now this is called single scattering. Although I think it should have been left in the... where is it? It should have been maybe left as part of the tooltip. Is it still there? Single scattering. It's not even there anymore. Come on. Could have left some Nishita in there. Thank you, Marco, by the way, for working on this. This is based on the work by Fernando Garcia Liñán. Interesting. So the model takes into account 4 wavelengths and converts them to XYZ space using a pre-computed matrix fit for those specific wavelengths. Look at that. It's amazing. Nice. Let's see those skies. Okay. Next, let's talk about sculpting. Actually, many changes to sculpting. By Namid Bhutani, there is one particular change and then some by hands related to it, which is... okay, so this is gonna impact you when sculpting, but it's not a tool, but it is better performance. Why? Because undo steps, when you're sculpting, you save undo steps, like the Blender saves undo, like control set. Well, these are now gonna take less memory because they are compressed. So very, very welcome, actually. This change has memory reduction, so 0 performance impact because the compression happens in background threads, even in the background. So it doesn't, it's not gonna, when you're sculpting, sometimes you may have noticed that there were, if you have a lot of vertices, you may have noticed that it will stutter at times. Well, that could be because it was saving undo steps in the background. So I know some people even reduce the number of undo steps just not to get that stutter. Well, this is has been reduced. Nice. So about 40 megabytes instead of 150 or plus, according to some performance tests. Nice. No more memory related slowdowns during intensive sculpting sessions. And at some point, there are some graphs here which are not in the main posts, but they're here. This one is very impressive. Look at that. Sculpting memory in this i7. So the red is the main. So this is how Blender, the amount of memory that Blender used to take before. And with the compression, with the new change, this is how much it takes now in these example files. So very nice. So good. Let's see. In a similar fashion, multi-res undo steps now also support compression. Nice. So the memory decrease went from 1.8 to 1.5, so around 24% less memory used by multi-res undo steps. I'll take any undo step improvement. Another one, improve and optimize undo data compression, so even more so, and it's also faster. So building the compress undo step went from 25 to 5 milliseconds, so 5 times faster, and almost 2 times faster to restore the compress undo step in an undo. So when you undo, should be almost twice as fast. And the memory's usage for an undo step is also 1.6 times smaller. So less memory faster, way faster to make the undo step, and a lot faster to recover that undo step. Amazing. Thank you, Hans, for working on this. So cool. I think this is gonna result in a lot snappier sculpting sessions, which is very welcome also, especially when working on tablets or less power devices. Cool. And this is more related to UI, which is gonna move in a bit, but this is the sculpt expand operator has now a lot nicer UI for showing the values. It used to be super long and unnecessarily long, basically. So it would have all the options ungrouped, so it wouldn't fit in the screen, basically. So you have actually never seen the entire description of this tool, of the Sculpt Expand tool. So now you do. Now you have fall off with different numbers. You have the loop count. You can have these two options, W or Q, and the steps, topology steps. And they are booleans too, so when a setting is on, it will be highlighted, and when it's off, not. Super nice. Thank you, Harley. Next. Okay, this is the title of the live stream, of today's live stream. This is shader nodes now support repeat zone, closures, and bundles. This is something that people have been requesting forever, and it's finally here. So I can go to the actual PR, but shader nodes now support, repeat zones. And actually, Cartesian Caramel has a live stream where he talks about the shader repeat zones here. And the first 10 minutes is him complaining about how slow it is, but it's with a good reason. It's because there is another branch where it's much faster to do the same thing, the exact same thing. So that's why. And I understand it also because it's a live stream. And I know that when you're live, you tend to talk a lot more than if you were recording a video. I know. But if you go past that, then he goes and makes a spider web using shader nodes, basically, like repeat nodes, which is so great, and it's awesome. I'm subscribed to him. That's how I found out about this video too. So yeah, super nice. But yeah, at some point I think it's having the demoing in the branch. Yeah, this is super slow, and then at some point this is how fast it should be. There you go. Fractals and all these kind of things. So yeah, super welcome addition. And yeah, crazy things you can do now with some bits from geometry nodes being ported over to shading nodes. That's always very welcome addition. The result should be similar, but it was in a different branch. It's different code than the one that landed. Although there is a patch being worked on to address this performance issue. But yeah, super nice. November is going to be crazy. Wow, yes, that's true. Good point, Sion. It is gonna be crazy. 5.0 is huge already. Huge. What else? Well, I mean, that's kind of big. And it works in a similar fashion than prior. Although closures and bundles, I don't think it's their demo there in the live stream. I didn't get to watch the whole live stream, but I only got to the part of the shader nodes. But yeah, closures and bundles are also there. Closures are like functions, and bundles are like a bag where you add a bunch of sockets in, and then you can take them out in somewhere else with a lot less cables going around your setups. All right, time to talk about UNI, user interface. Bunch of things. First, add descriptions. Well, Ethan not only makes patches but also describe things. So yeah, this is a tooltips or descriptions to specific select similar types. Now they actually tell you what is going on. So thank you, Ethan and Nika, for reviewing it. Harley made it so when the region, when an editor is too small, it's not going to show the action zone in the corners to resize and all that, because that only leads to even worse setups. So good. Remove them. They don't make any sense in editors that are too small. Then talking about that, there is a new option that it's mainly for tablets or for things where you don't have easy access to like this precise corner where you want to resize editors and perform area maintenance. Basically, there is a new option in the preferences interface called corner handles. If you enable that, you will see that there are now these grip icons over there. Let me make the UI bigger. There is these grip icons there now, which are basically the same as the corner. It's basically just the corners bigger and with a visual cue that you have something that you can grab there. So nothing has changed in that regard. However, you can now click on them and you get these options. So you can actually close the area from there. Like, I don't want the properties editor, boom, it's gone. You can also, well, let's actually use it. So click. I can also split this horizontally, right? Because I want it to be a different editor. I can also vertical split, move to somewhere else, maximize, focus, or duplicate into a new window. So now you don't have to remember anymore, hey, I want this, like, well, which one was the shortcut to make a new window? I think it was Control Drag. No, Control Drag, no, it was even Shift Drag. Even I forgot. Shift Drag, and it makes a new window. Now you can just click in here. This corner, the visible corner, is optional. The menu will always be there, so you can actually click on the corners now. Instead of just click drag, you can also click in the corners. Super nice. So you don't have to have the setting enabled at all times. Let's see, what else? That one is by Harley. But yeah, this was added mainly for the tablet support, but it's also a good addition to Blender itself, that you can actually see these things. Next. Oh, you know what else? Harley improved the dialog confirmation for DIN Topo, dynamic topology. I don't know if you remember, but it looked like this. It was not great. It had one thing going for it, which is it would warn you at the exact spot where you were. Great. But it was still super like it was warning with an exclamation mark and then the warning icon and then an info icon. So two icons that it found attribute data detected, and then yeah, okay. Now it's an actual dialogue. So that's good. And now you can also cancel it, because before you couldn't cancel it. Next. Ooh, renaming. Part of the 5.0 project is to rename many nodes, rename settings, and make things more consistent. So the nodes that used to be called color, sometimes RGB or RGBA, now they are always called color. Same thing. It's the same node. It should be renamed to color. So now they're all color. This one is also great. Have you ever noticed how when you open temporary windows like render or preferences or file browser, they would always appear at somewhere in the screen. They will not remember the window size or the positions until now. Temporary windows, file browser, preferences, render, drivers, or info, they now remember where did you put them and how big were they before when you close them. So let's say I have this preferences window, which I really like it to be tiny for some reason, and here in the upper left corner. So if I close this and then I open it again, bam, it's closed. It's open at the same size in the same place. Awesome. Thank you so much, Harley. And this is awesome. Let's see what else. Ooh, another one by Harley. Correction and improvement file browser font tooltips. This is better when you see it. Look at how pretty the tooltips were before. Said no one ever. These are the tooltips for a font. They didn't say anything. But now, wait a minute. At some point they had this thing, but now this is how they look. This is how they look. Well, I mean, with Calibri is maybe not the best option. This is how they look. The 5 boxing wizard champ quickly, exclamation mark, 1, 2, 3, 2, 9. This is Comic Sans, but actually let's see it in action. Let's see, let's add a text element with the properties editor and the font. I'm gonna change the font to something else. So here, let's see, there you go. Now you have a nice preview. Although I liked it when it was full white. Why is it gray now? I mean, it's nice that it shows the demo, but I think the colors are off. Oh, maybe because I'm messing up the theme settings. I'm working on theme stuff for 5.0. No, something else. Anyways, aren't they pretty? They are. And also, not only for that, for the file browser, but also for the selector, the font selector in the when you select existing fonts. So if I open a font and then I open another font, then I leave this over, I should see a nicer font. There you go. Neat. Not for some fonts, like BCON wrangler doesn't show it, but this one, interesting. BCON regular doesn't show it. This one doesn't. Okay, there's something funny going on there. Let's see what else. Accessibility, there is a new option under preferences, but there's a new panel actually under preferences. Let's make this slightly smaller. In preferences, there is a new section under interface, which is called accessibility. So far, it only has one option, but the idea is that we can include more because accessibility is a big topic that covers many areas. This one in particular is just one so far that is called reduce motion. It's pretty common in webs or file browsers or operating systems. And basically it just, basically avoid animations that are not really crucial for Blender to work. Like the sidebar sliding in and out. You don't really need that. Or the pie menus being the animation of the pie menus. It's not necessary for Blender to work. So Blender will try not to have the animations for those things. And that's it. Small thing. But the idea is that now that we have this panel, we can introduce new ones. Like we could introduce for increased contrast, where it will take your theme settings and just bump the contrast more. Maybe, could be. What else do you think? That the text, the font size should be here. Font size shouldn't be an option in the theme. Like if I can't read, that's not up to the theme to decide. That's up to Blender to decide. Theme should be just colors. Let me know if you have ideas for more accessibility options, or make a post in right-click select. Next, the animation playhead has a tiny little change in design. It no longer is a rectangular shape, but now it has this more common drawing that you see in other applications. It has like a little triangle underneath it. It's a small thing, but it helps when you want to recognize, okay, this is the playhead, or if you want to recognize it in icons. If you have an icon that has to do anything with a playhead in using that shape, it's always good. Small thing. You know what else is not a small thing, and this has to do with accessibility, but also actually with tablet support. So tablets usually don't have a hover effect. iPad Pros have it with the Apple Pencil, but regular or like an iPad mini doesn't have that hover support. And some items in Blender, they react to hover. So if you want to see where you can click in this number slider, you don't know by just looking at it. You need to hover, and then it's like, okay, I can click on the left side, the right side, or even in the center, right? So now there is an option in the preferences under interface, numeric here, editors, and there is show numeric input arrows. And this, as you can see below, it would display the arrows on the sides all the time. So it makes things a bit noisier in some places, but at least now you can see at a glance that this slider and this slider are different. Before, you wouldn't able to tell that these two are different. This is a factor slider and this is a number slider. So number sliders can go all the way to big numbers, while factors are usually from 0 to 1, or you need to manually change it. It's good to have that indicator for, especially for tablets, or I've been actually using it in on my own setups, and I'm not bothered by it as much as I thought. Let's see what else. Damien Picard has been working on fixing and improving a few messages across the UI, and by a few he means a lot. So nice. Let's see. Shape key properties in the dope sheet by Patrick. So similar to grease pencil layers, now you can adjust. So this is how it used to look when you had a shape key active in the dope sheet, so basically non-existent. But now it looks like this. So yes, it's a bit of a duplicate of information because you also have it in the shape keys panel in the mesh data properties, but it is really helpful because maybe you are using something else here. You're using the materials or modifiers, or you have a different place. So it's always good to have you have this. Let's see. It's the same code, by the way, just shared in two places. And this is the dope sheet editor, shape key editor. Let's see. Timeline. There is, well, timeline, the header of the timeline, or the footer in some editors. It's now the popover to show the king, or like the king set, used to be called, actually I should have added how it looked before, but I think you know more or less how it looked before. So before, the king set, first that it was connected to playback, which doesn't make any sense because playback is one thing and king is a different thing. They're not related at all. And also it has some information inside that you can actually expose. We already do, for example, if you are in vertex paint and you change this to my vertex color, you see the name outside, but not for kings, for king sets. And now if you had something enabled, you wouldn't see it. And now you do. Now if you open Blender, you will see that now you see the king set. So by default says king. If you have available, it will say available. There has a little refresh issue that's going to be fixed. But you can also set the keyframing type. So you can see at a glance which mode are you, which keyframe type you're going to add. So if I press I need a new king set or a no king set, I'm adding this kind of keyframe type. So I can change it to be something else. And then now I will see this king set and keyframe type. Let's see. What else? Enable modifier. Oh, yes. The modifiers in the... Oh, this is a commit without a pull request. Bad. and I did it. But I have a reason, because it's a one-liner. But basically, the video sequence editor modifiers had the wrong. So if I had some text here and I add a modifier like brightness, contrast, it was using the eye icon, and it's really the render icon that should be there. Small thing. But you may have noticed that where do I mention that? Oh, maybe I show it in the sequence. I'm gonna talk about that in the sequence editor. What else? Oh, speaking of preferences, good news for developers and good news for everyone, actually. Do you notice anything here? At a glance, I give you 3 seconds. Developer extras is off, but I see an experimental tab. Yes. Experimental, this tab that has all the fun in the world, because you can enable things like shader node previews and things that are unreleased. They were only exposed if developer extras was on, and they had nothing to do with it, because you're not a developer probably, but you still want to have fun with experimental settings. So these are now separate. The experimental tab will show up always as long as you're using an alpha build. When you're using beta or release, like a final release, you're not going to see experimental for obvious reason. You don't want to play with in a final release with experimental stuff. However, in alpha, everything is permitted. So you will always see this tab. Where are the debug settings though? Because there was a panel here for debugging. Well, that is now enabled when you enable developer extras in a new tab, which is called developer tools. Similar to a browser, DevTools, same thing. Like when you have inspect in DevTools, like this concept, well, in Blender. Which is great, because if you're a developer that wants to make use of these settings, or there is something that is called debug menu, debug value, which is a hidden thingy that developers set a magic number here that they agree on, that they know, and you set it, it will turn on a specific setting. Sometimes there are some settings that are for like debugging. There is a magic number, I don't remember which one, that will make your cycles render show all kinds of info that is only relevant for developers, and that's fun. But now they have this hidden menu, and the idea is that they will start using more of these options. Actually, the cycles one, it has an option here, cycle debug. I can turn them all now. It's only for developers. And the cycles one, there must be some debug. Yeah, there's a debug panel, and here you have a bunch of debugging stuff. Neat. But yeah, hopefully this will encourage developers to add more debugging stuff to Blender. And also it will encourage regular users to try experimental features and report issues. Okay, what else? Theme. We were talking about the theme before. There's 3 big changes this week. 1, regions such as sidebar, and let's go to the preferences. So regions in the theme are now a panel, dedicated panel that has asset shelf. This will control all the asset shelves in every editor. Channels, the same. Channels such as the list of channels in the dope sheet, in the video sequence editor, all kinds of channels, they now have the dedicated section. Markers and scrubbing area also have the dedicated section. Because I don't know if you remember, or if you ever tried to set up your theme settings before, but the scrubbing, this area, or the markers area section down here, this was independent per editor. So if you wanted to change the color, you had to change it for the graph, the dope sheet, the NLA, the sequencer, everything. It was so ridiculous. Now they all have this one dedicated place for the entire Blender. Yes, it is less flexibility for theming, but come on. That's a lot of flexibility already that you can change these colors. Toolbar and sidebar the same. Navigation tabs background. This affects all these options, but also this sidebar for all the editors in every editor. And the same for the background. You can change the background of these sections and it will affect sidebars all across Blender. And these are channels. So actually, if I set the channel to be something else like blue, this channel, this is the graph editor, this is dope sheet, and the video editor, video sequence editor is also affected. So nice. What else? You can now collapse paint pressure curves. This option, I already talked about this, is the pressure curves. They were always expanded. Now you can collapse them. Nice. Small thing, the geometry nodes. The geometry nodes editor has this like a sub mode modifier and tool. They didn't have icons before, and they should have icons because we always show an icon here. If you're in the shader editor, you have for object, world, line, we always have, and the geometry nodes didn't have. So now you know. It's a small thing, but it helps a lot, really a lot. Icons we should make more use of icons. They're so handy. I recently went on holidays to Greece, and of course some things are only in Greek. Makes sense, you're in Greece. But it was really hard to read, and the UI for like getting transport, for example, you like which one is close, which one is accept, left or right, and they were all in Greek without a check or an X to cancel, and like icons would have made my life so much easier. So yeah, icons. What else? This is new. The OpenGL render operators have been moved to a drop-down menu. So, well, inside of a sub-menu. So if you go to View, these operators to render the OpenGL render viewport and animation, image, and keyframes, they were all exposed here in the View menu. And now they are under a sub-menu, which is one extra not click because you don't even click on it, but it makes things more organized because there are new operators coming to render because now we have I showed it last time, but there is now the concept of a sync scene time and scene for the sequencer and a scene for the actual scene, where you have the sequencer can be like my edit, and here you can have a different scene, which is called my animation, right? And then you have one kind of data and the sequencer in a different time. So that's why you need two timelines. And for that, sometimes you will have an option that would say render this scene or render the sequence scene. That's why the menu was also changed in the video editor for render preview, render sequencer image, sequencer animation. Same thing. All right, let's move. We're almost there. Somebody just asked, how long is this live stream? Well, it's complicated. Avril Lavigne, it's complicated. No, it's not complicated. We just go through everything that is new in Blender. We're almost there. We go in alphabetical order, and we are under U already. So let's see. UVs, 3 changes. Amazing to see new features in the UV editor. It will make everyone happy. Because, okay, let's see. UV, arrange and align selected UV islands. So you can now, this is awesome. Look, let's see it in full screen here. There you go. So you can now select UVs and arrange them in line. Can you actually see this? Yes. And in the repeat last operator, you can choose the settings, align the axis, the order. So nice. So you can align the minimum, the maximum, and what else was? size order. You can order by larger to smallest, or the smallest to larger, or not arrange. That's so cool. I only noticed now because this image is wrong, because I think this label has changed. Let's look at the code. Wow, the patch is from 4 months ago. Thank you for your patience, Ethan. This is super nice. Good to see new features coming to the UV editor, because yeah, we need them. Many people just rely on add-ons, and they shouldn't rely on add-ons for such a basic thing. So super welcome. Let's see where are the options here. Order, align, access, and initial position. Neat. Okay, next. Or the next two are also by Ethan. So add minimum and maximum to align vertically and horizontally. So when aligning, yeah, the operator to align them all to an horizontal or vertical line now has an option. Before it would be like this, and now with minimum is like this, and maximum goes here. So minimum is on this side, maximum is on this side. Super nice. Axis and position. Ooh, a typo. Minimum. Does this make it to the pull request? No, minimum. No. We're good. Thank you, Ethan. Okay, next. Another one by Ethan. Add pack to custom region option to pack island operator. Pack to custom region. Wait, can you? I haven't seen this one actually. So, now you can define a custom region and it will pack them to that. Okay, this video is 1.5 minutes. Oh, it's like a border render. Ooh, nice. Let's see. So, okay, this is packing. Okay, it's 1 minute because it takes super long to pack. But once you wait, it will use this specified section. And you have a few options to box bounding region. Okay, yeah, I guess that I just the pack operator that is a bit slow, but nice. So next, GPU acceleration. So nice. Awesome, thank you, Ethan. Okay, next. Video sequence editor. Two new options, two new tools. Select circle and lasso or lasso select has been implemented by Ramon Cloak. This feature works like the select circle in any other mode. Select the user, press C in the preview or the timeline, and then selects. Ooh, nice. Want to select that? Say, press C, I guess. And then you can paint select. So good. Nice. Thank you, Raul. And the same for lasso select or lasso select. I guess this is in a similar fashion. Let's see. This feature works like the select lasso in other editors. In preview, the user can draw a region that they want to select. And, oh, nice. So you draw. Thank you, Ramon. So, nice. Lasso. Who says that? Is lasso? Or is it French? Lasso etymology. It's Latin, Spanish. There you go. Lasso. Lasso is Spanish. So There you go. Representing an American Spanish pronunciation of Spanish lasso. So I've been saying it right the whole time. Next. Oh, this one is so also. Again, Ramon. Paste strips at the mouse in position in preview. I know it's a small thing, but it's a quality of life. So you copy something and then you paste it. Wait, it's confusing because it's using a demo. It's using a Blender screen capture as demo. But let's see. Okay, it's a new. Oof, it's confusing. It's confusing. So okay, the video is confusing. So here's where he pastes something. Paste. Ah, there you go. Paste here, and then he move the mouse here, and then he paste something. Okay, there you go. Yeah, it's confusing. The demo is confusing, but the feature is awesome. It just pastes where your mouse is. Positions select your clipboard in where the mouse is. So nice. You know what else is nice? Folk. Folk is a nice person and a nice developer and has implemented many features in the sequencer, in Grease Pencil, and now it's combining the two with story tools, but also working in other places that need attention. So the Blender sequencer modifiers were using the old menu that you all love and miss from regular object and mesh modifiers. I know, but it has benefits to have the new menu. So the old menu you couldn't search, now you can. But then Pablo, why would I search? There is like 7 modifiers. Well, because soon there will be more modifiers. Not only one extra modifier, which is called Compositor, spoiler alert, but there will be assets, modifier assets. You're gonna have your own effects that you make in the Compositor, and you will be able to mark them as assets and make them show up in the Add Modifier menu, which is awesome. This is this expands the video sequence editor to be really next level compared to how it used to be in terms of effects. So nice. So yes, that's why it was changed. But not only that, another update, I don't know if you noticed before when I was making the demo, was that the modifiers now have a UI that you may be familiar with it. It has a UI that you can actually drag and drop. Yes, it has a familiar UI that you can collapse, expand. It has subpanels. It has a glitch, yes, but it has this nice UI. You know what else it has? Icons. Did you notice? There are these beautiful icons. Each modifier has its own icons. The mask you already know, but the other ones are new. These are brightness contrast, color balance, curves, hue correct, tone map, and white balance with a little thermometer there. So yes, we have new icons. And the UI itself, here's a reminder of how it used to look. Not how bad, how unattended used to look once Git finished loading. Sometimes when I'm working, I think I spent a long time part of the day just waiting for this website to load. But there was a big change. This was around 2,700 lines added and 1,600 removed. It's a huge change by Folk. So if you don't remember, this is how modifiers used to look. Really weird, dark on light. These are how boxes are drawn, not how panels are drawn. And now they look like this, so much more familiar. And they don't have these arrows. You can now just drag and drop them. So cool. Let's see what else. Oh, the app template has been updated. It's a small thing, but when you start the Blender video editing template, you may have noticed that the scene is called edit. The timeline is no longer visible, but the footer of this section is on, and you can actually see at a glance if the scene time is on or not. So small thing, but it's new. Let's move into the two remaining changes related to video and color space. One is save color space metadata based on the display and remove the HDR option. It used to be possible that you can enable HDR on export, but now Blender will just take that from whatever you're working on. So if you're using an HDR like the PQ or HLG displays, it will just use that because you're using HLG. You must be doing HDR, so it will encode things as HDR. And this has been added also to the display metadata for HDR videos. Because without this, apparently the SDR YouTube, watching a video on YouTube with SDR, the 10-bit PQ and the 12-bit PQ will look different. It will look a bit too saturated, but now it will look the same with this setting. So yeah, you can export HDR straight to YouTube and it should work. Nice. And that's it. Actually, there's a bunch of Vulkan stuff and Windows and Mac OS, but other than that, I think that's about the 80 changes I wanted to share with you for this week. I'm running out of... Isn't it funny how my voice really starts to break at the exact time we are wrapping up the show? I think I have a 2-hour limit and I should take care of my voice because I'm going to use it a lot during the Blender conference this week. How are we doing in questions? Yeah, are there any questions? Oof. Why? Private. Oh, it's not HTTP? Yeah. Anyway, Blender community, it's just a redirect. Okay, let's see. How many questions? Oh, 11 questions. Let's see. Are they all expanded? Yes. Okay, let's see. It's actually not 11, but less. Nice. Let's go to the bottom. And let's try to reply to all of them. David says, hi Pablo, is there a way to make some node in geometry nodes that can be used in animation, like for example a node that can do smear frame or add muscle, or some way to simulate cloth, etc.? Yes, right? I think people are doing geometry nodes for cloth simulation, right? I think they do. Can be used in animation for a node to smear frame. I think yes, yeah. Actually, isn't it that what the add-on for smear frames does? I think. But yeah, it should be possible. But more so soon with the introduction of more physics in Blender in geometry nodes. But yes, should be possible. Entity says, when working with large node setups, hi by the way. When working with large node setups, connections often end up stretching across the whole graph. What if there was a relay node that you could plug anything into? Yes, I think you're also talking about portal nodes. I think they would be super handy. There was a proposal. There was no PR, but I think a proposal about it some time ago. But yes, I think we should definitely have that at some point. We need a design for it. And I think I did a design on paper once. But we know about this. We are aware, and I think it's a great idea. We should have it. Next. Hi, Pablo. Watch this. Don't just throw links at streamers. To others, it's a method of generating sound in 3D engines. Interesting. The simulation could be... it's probably the ray tracing, right? Yeah, sound ray tracing. Wave Blender. Interesting. In blended domains. Interesting. Okay. SIGGRAPH Asia from last year. Next. Thank you, Nanabat, for going after some comments and replying there, because it makes you can actually share links and everything without me getting on the way, or when I comment, the website reloads, so I lose where I was. So it's a good thing that you do it. Thank you. Hi Pablo, says Lapis C. Thank you for an amazing show. Thank you. It's not directed directly to this episode, but it's still probably a good idea to ask. I stumbled upon this old open issue. I'm an experienced programmer and love Blender, so I want to take a go at fixing the issue. Nice. The question may sound silly, but that's all the more reason to ask. What is the proper place to look for documentation on how to actually contribute changes so it can be reviewed? Google is not very clear. Oh, that's good that you ask. So this one is 6 years old. Drawing single pixels, paint mode is impossible. Okay, so this is a small tutorial. You go to developer.blender.org. This is where you should find everything from how to build Blender, how to, if you're a new developer, the developer introduction, or even code design documentations. Everything. Once you read how to build Blender, that's the first step. Some introduction on how to make your first PR. For example, the first step is, when I make it dark side, all right. You build Blender. That's the very first step. Then once you build it, then you go to the introduction. Cool. You can set up your build environment, which you probably already did. You can get in touch with other developers. You can pick a project, work on the, well, first how to navigate the code. There are there's some documentation on how to go through changes in the code. For example, for the user interface, the way I do it, I always just look for the tooltip or the Python operator, and from there I dig my way up. So for example, here, if I'm in Blender, I want to find an option that, I don't know, is related to lock markers, right? Prevent marker editing. Okay, so I just search for prevent marker editing, and this will show, okay, cool. This is the RNA. RNA is where all the definitions of the settings are, of the options. So it's like, oh, cool. So this is it. Prevent marker editing. And then what is the flag? Oh, the flag is actually prop deck sync only. No, this must be something else. This is the evaluation data. So it's something else. Okay, lock markers. I just look for lock markers. And then I find the actual property in the DNA. Okay, this is part of the struct for tool settings. Is it? Yes. And then you go to the tool settings, and then you find its use actually here in the strip transform. Interesting. And then you find, okay, and then yeah, you move around. So you go here, the evil scene. There is an evil. We found an evil scene. What is an evil scene? Command click or control click, and you get the scene. So where is this used? And then you go to where this function is used, and then who's passing on an evil scene? Where is this? Anyway, you know what I mean. I just control click on things and just go and read around the code. Let's move on. But yeah, basically that's how I would do it. And then once you're ready, you can search how to build a pull request. So contributing code, and then pull request. And here you make, well, first you set it up for one time, and then you create a pull request. Here you go. Check out, push to your repo. First you need to fork Blender, and it's all explained there. But it's very straightforward. Even an idiot like me can make PRs, so anyone can. Thank you for wanting to contribute. The more the better, and even contribute to Blender as a silver development fund supporter. And 30-year anniversary. Look at now, buddy, you're collecting. You have 2? Bronze and silver. Nice. And Blender Studio. And you make patches. What an example of a contributor. Thank you. Let's see. But oi, Pablo, I've been thinking a lot about the donation thing. The donation thing as in donating. That's here. The donation thing. Someone in the chat mentioned lowering the barrier a lot, especially in the UK, US, Canada, due to reasons. Many people must cut back on spending by canceling subscriptions. The person in the chat mentioned adding an even lower tier, like a $1. Personally, I think it would be fair to have a splash screen nag the first time the software loads in a day, so long as it doesn't draw focus and auto closes. We still get the command prompt flashing anyway. I'm not a big fan of that, to be honest. Regarding lowering the tier, the issue with that is that somebody, if you can't donate $5, then you probably can't donate 4 and you can't donate 3. And at some point there is also expenses for credit card processing, and there are expenses anyway. So at some point it becomes nothing. So I think it's better in a way to, and we tried at some point to lower it as much as possible, and we would get a lot more people donating $1, but the amount of money was about the same or less than if you do $5. So every hour you would get 10 people donating $1, or you would get 2 people donating 5 each. And at the end it levels out. So it's maybe better if you can't afford $5 per month for a software that you use for work or everything. It's maybe just better to not donate and just wait until you can. In the meantime, you can always do a one-time donation if it's not a recurring donation, and that also helps. Just save it, and then at some point at the end of the year, maybe as a Christmas gift, you can donate 5 or 10 instead of 1 every month until you can afford. Let's see. I think it would be better to try to follow people's currency better, because I know I'm from Argentina, and $1 is like 1,000 something pesos. It's like a lot of pesos, which is and it keeps growing every month. But yeah, the exchange rate is so all over the place that in some places it makes better sense to follow the current local currency, but that is a whole mess to set up. Anyways, let's see. Also, people are gonna use the shader repeat for really heavy parallax, as the current method is copying a group 16 to 128 times. Thing is, then we get native parallax occlusion mapping working somehow. Are you up to the task? Now that would be an insane 5.0 or 5.3 feature. So long as we have normal maps in cycles, we should accept not all shaders should or can be physically accurate. And I couldn't agree more. But would you be up for the task? 5.2 is an LTS release, and I still think that Blender 5 is going to be a huge milestone, but a lot of people are not going to switch over until 5.2 because of the LTS. As we've seen in the survey that we did this year, it's last year actually. Wow. I think we're gonna see a lot of people migrating then. So it's a good time to, you know, if something doesn't make it to 5.0, might in 5.1, 5.2. So 5.1 actually starts now in October. In 2 weeks, October 1st starts 5.1 alpha, their development of 5.1 alpha, which is kind of crazy to think about. I hope we do another code quality and winter of code quality this year, because that was super nice last year and it helps after a big release. Anyway, next. And like new features are fun, but yeah, we need some cleaning every now and then. Hi Pablo, says Pascal. With William Reinisch coming back to development for tablets, the old cool projects that he had planned to work on should be revived, like the keymap editor and such. William could only make it here for that one workshop. Unfortunately, he's not able to join. He has a full-time job and a family, and yeah, he can't be involved in the daily Blender work. But we all know and love his proposals from back in the days. I'm personally a huge supporter of the keymap editor. Not exactly how William has it in mind. I have some ideas that are very on the same fashion. I think the keymap editor right now in Blender sucks, and every time we change one shortcut, we should punch ourselves because we are making it hard for people to keep using the old shortcuts because the editor is just really bad. It just doesn't even tell you when a key is used. You need an add-on for that. It's terrible. But yes, I'm with you here. Next. So we have 2 more questions. Hi Pablo, do you think Cycles will ever move toward full spectral rendering instead of staying limited to RGB? Actually, there is, yes, people have been working on it. Yes, there are discussions on it, but yeah. Yeah, actually, there is even a branch I think you can test. And the last question, amazing new stuff coming to Blender 5. Well done, guys, and thank you so much. That deserves a heart because it's not a question and I don't have to keep losing my voice. I need to save my voice for a Blender conference, which is next now actually, and it's 7 o'clock, beer o'clock in some countries, which means there are probably people at the Valley right now. The Valley, if you're not familiar with it, by the way, let's see, maps.google.com. Let me go incognito just in case. The Valley. So the Valley, it's the place where the Blender conference used to take place. This is where the Blender conference used to take place. If you see old presentations from the Blender conference, you may recognize some of the places. This is how the cafe used to look. But basically this place, the Valley, is where the conference used to take place. However, nowadays, and since we moved places to a new venue, that's the gathering place for an unofficial meetup. If you're a Blender user and you happen to be in Amsterdam today, tomorrow, until Saturday, drop by the Valley in Leidseplein, in the center of Amsterdam. Leidseplein. There are many trams that go there, but you can get walking there from the venue, from the Blender venue, in like 15 minutes, or from Central Station in like 20 minutes maybe, or 25 minutes max. Go there. It's a great place to, even if you don't have a ticket for the conference, even more so if you don't have a ticket for the conference, go to the Valley around this time, because there will be people there with Blender t-shirts probably. I have already my card that says Blender conference, and I will use it in a few hours tomorrow. So I need to go rest. No, I'm probably gonna drop by the Valley to see if I can meet some other Blender users now. All right. Thanks for tuning in. I'm happy I managed to make this, even though we're super busy with the conference, because that way we next time I don't have to do 1 month worth of updates, but also because we can get out of the way all these great updates and you can go test them. That being said, I think I covered everything. Next time will be on the 30th of September, 1 day before, well, half a day, because we do it before the beta of Blender 5. Isn't that crazy? It is. Thanks for tuning in. I had a lot of fun. Thanks for hanging out in the chat. Sorry if I don't get to answer your questions, but it's been busy. Let's chat next time, same place, about the same time, in this bi-weekly show that we call BlenderToday Live. Ciao. I didn't warn you about the ear hole, sorry. Okay, thanks. See you at Blender Conference. Bye.